so let's bring in Mark, pronouns he, him, from South Carolina, atheist, who is talking about hospital to heaven, the objective reality of NDEs, near-death experiences, if I'm up on my acronyms. So, Mark, can you hear us?
I can.
All right.
How you doing tonight? I think it's time for a joke. You ready?
Okay. I thought I was the joke.
No, this is a joke. Okay. Jesus said, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." And the disciple said, "Jesus Christ, you always get the first pitch."
All right. Not too bad. Okay. Not too bad at all. Okay.
Let's go on to the topic. Oh, here, I'll start with this one near-death experience recorded by a guy named Dr. Tom Ofterhide. And this will loop back around into several actual points. He has a patient who goes into a coma right away, and so he leaves. And the guy's in a coma, so his lunch arrives. Doctor eats it. And then he later, like a month later, the patient says, "Doc, there's this thing that happened. I need to talk to you about it." And he said, "Well, I know you ate my lunch." He said, "But while you were eating it, you were very, very worried about this second year student who was supposed to look after you all day, and you were really concerned about that and really upset." And the doctor thought, well, that's something that I never told to anybody. And he said, that means the guy read my mind, which got his attention right away. So that's a supernatural occurrence that happened during an NDE. And the guy also said he followed the doctor down the hall and heard the doctor talking to his wife and making a very dim view of his prognosis. And he said, well, he didn't sound very cheerful to my wife. And that's another example of he moved down the hall without just his consciousness moved, not his body. So that's another example. And because people always say, well, there's no proof for NDEs, but I would say that's proof. Just those two things.
Well, I would say that's a story.
And moving
I would say that's
hall.
a story, but let's now talk about a bit of the sourcing here. So who did you say the doctor was that recorded the story?
His name is Tom Ofterhide. He's on a tape called Rethinking Death. 22 minutes in.
Ofterhide?
Ofterhide. I guess it's German. So that's one
just
thing.
Also, I'm not sure exactly how best to spell it because I'm trying to look things up, and the first thing that came up when I tried typing that in, it looks like it's in Spanish. So I feel like I'm pointing myself in the wrong direction.
Well, it's A-U. I don't know if he would be on the internet. As far as I know, it's A-U-F-D-E-R-H-Y-D-E. I think that's it. Dr. Tom. But his whole interview is in this movie, or this video called Rethinking Death, put together by one of the main researchers in it, who is Parnia, Dr. Sam Parnia. But moving on.
Well, before we move on, because the thing is, when it comes to stories like this, it's going to come down to what's the quality of the testimony, what's the timing of the testimony, when were things recorded, because one thing I have noticed in other cases that I have looked at is that usually the stories themselves about these things are recorded sometimes years or even a decade later, and sometimes second or third hand. So when I'm trying to get some of this info here so I can look this up carefully myself.
About a month after the event, because the patient just couldn't believe it. And he told the doctor to close the door and then ran the story by him.
Well, I mean, when was this actually recorded? That's the question, though. Not when other things were being claimed. When was the actual story recorded compared to when the event took place?
A month between.
When was it recorded? Not when it was talked about. When was it actually recorded and published so we can actually see the time between the actual event and what we can check?
It's on video. It's in this,
on video.
Right. Okay. So hold on. Let me, Mark.
22 minutes in.
Mark, I understand. Yeah. I understand. But Mark, hold on. I just got to ask, because when it comes to NDEs, there are some important questions to ask. How can you know that this occurred like during a brain death situation, or that this was an actual out of body experience, as opposed to just a hallucination? And maybe, maybe he subconsciously heard some discussion at some point that contained the information that he claims to have experienced directly. How do you know that? Well, I mean, I don't know, because I was talking. I was talking, and you just kind of interrupted me, so I feel like you weren't hearing me, because I'm asking, at what point? How can you know for sure that he was having an out of body experience, where his consciousness or his being, his soul left his body? I would think that would include brain death or something like that. I don't see how the brain could continue on without your supposed soul, if the soul is what makes up like the person and everything like that. So it would have to occur during brain death. Otherwise, there's no way that you can know that he was actually experiencing these things out of body, or if he was just hallucinating it, like during hypoxia and like different traumas to the brain. Hallucinations and different experiences can occur. So you would need to be able to figure out like exactly what denotes that he was having these experiences out of body, as opposed to just proclaiming that they were out of body experiences. Do you see where there's evidence?
Yeah, sure.
That's lacking.
Yeah. Well, in this case, he was on his body was on the table, hooked up to a bunch of machines. His brain activity was practically nil, and he wasn't. I mean, he was in a coma.
But yeah, I feel like you're not maybe understanding what I'm asking about.
No, I do.
When the brain is dying, and when the brain regains like oxygen and regains function, there's a point there where these hallucinations and these experiences can feel real. How do you know that these experiences happened while he was brain dead, as opposed to on either side of his brain regaining function?
It was confirmed by the doctor. He knew what was in the doctor's mind, what he was thinking.
No, I mean, that's still anecdotal. Like, that's ad hoc. You're not actually providing evidence for those things. Like, you're just saying that was confirmed. You're not actually providing proof that they were confirmed.
Well,
I think the more important thing is we are getting this ultimately the thing is, though, we're getting this from this doctor months or years or decades after the actual event. And the problem is, we also know human memory is not the most reliable, especially when it is emotionally fraught. So this is why I ask about some of the details about what things happened and when they were recorded, because when you have months or years between things, that's a long time for you to misremember or create new memories that override the previous memories, or things just get highlighted more and less. Details get lost that might also otherwise explain the oddities. This is why I'm trying to check these sorts of things a bit more carefully. So, for example, the claim that the person was completely unconscious. How well can we actually know that? In fact, when I was doing a little bit of Googling here about this person, I came across this study suggesting that actually in many cases, people that we thought were unconscious having cardiac arrest, this seems like that some fraction of them actually were still conscious and still actually had some level of awareness, even that when they were in this cardiac arrest state. Not that they were having near-death experiences, but they actually had some sort of more conscious awareness than the doctors had realized. So these are the sorts of things we need to be cautious for and actually trying to test for and checking against, rather than jumping to the supernatural spooky conclusion based on anecdote.
Well, there is no other conclusion possible.
Sure there is. As I mentioned, but we misremember things. That's one possible conclusion, that important details have been lost along the way. That contamination has happened so that the patient actually could hear certain things when the doctor didn't realize that they actually were being heard. These are completely prosaic possibilities that we have to at least work out against before we jumped again to the only conclusion that you jumped to.
Well, if several rooms away, as in down the hall.
But
no,
you don't know that.
And
this is the
anecdote
anecdote that we have years after the fact. We're saying that we don't necessarily
not
know
years.
that those details are reliable.
It was not years. It was.
When did he tell the story? Did he tell the story exactly a few days after it happened or not? Or are we actually getting the stories years after the event happened?
No. Within right away. I mean, after the doctor realized that he gave an on-camera interview.
You're pointing to like recordings on YouTube. Did that thing on YouTube happen a few days after the actual event or years after the event?
A few days.
So he rushed from the hospital to go onto YouTube and let everyone know?
Say again?
So he rushed from the hospital to get to YouTube and let everyone know what happened?
Well, no, he's part of a study. And you just have to look
which might have happened, years after the actual events? Because studies don't happen in a couple of days.
Well, I don't. Well, there's another strange thing about NDEs.
Before we go to strange things, we need to actually get the actual facts right. You are claiming that we have basically near instantaneous reporting of the events. And I'm saying I don't see how you have been able to demonstrate that, because all the things you're pointing to is this doctor recording things and talking about things on the internet. And I am trying to actually get a timeline down here. When did the event take place? And then when did it actually get published?
I can't tell you. You can just look at the interview. That's all I can say, and see if you're convinced.
In other words,
by that.
You can't actually justify this claim that we have some sort of great. No, we're not moving on, because here's the thing: if you got crappy evidence, we're going to highlight that and you're going to throw it away. Because if you're going to keep coming back and bringing back crappy evidence, thinking like you got gold, I'm not going to be able to really treat all that seriously, Mark. We're going to try to actually interrogate these things as carefully as we can and see, does it actually hold up to scrutiny? If your arguments can hold up to scrutiny, you should drop them. And if the only thing you can do is run away, that makes you an intellectual coward. And I'm trying to think more highly of you, Mark. I'm trying. So let us try to properly interrogate this claim, okay?
Well, I understand. But you
Mark,
really have to look at the actual interview.
Well, no, but I really don't care. No, Mark, I'm just going to tell you right now, I really don't care about like anecdotal evidence and some guy went on a YouTube interview about some bullshit. Did you really just sit there and hope to drop like, oh yeah, this one guy on this one video I saw years ago said that he had an out-of-body experience and it was an NDE, therefore God, maybe? Like, are you trying to prove God? I don't even know if you're trying to prove God.
No.
No, you're just trying to prove that the spiritual exists. Like, what are you trying to do here?
There were supernatural events. Reading somebody's mind and being able to hear in another part of the building.
I mean, even John McClane can hear in another part of the building through the air vents. But I mean, just because you can hear in another part of it, like that's another thing. Like you say that he was in another room, and all of these rooms are connected by air vents. Why couldn't he have just subconsciously picked up on the conversation through the air vents? Like that's a totally plausible thing. And another thing is, I'm going to keep harping on this because
I found the video.
Okay.
So the video itself is from 5 years ago. It's from 2019. And the video itself says this is from a talk from 2019. And just scrolling through the video, jumping through right now, and it has subtitles in Spanish, and I'm putting up the English subtitles as well. Apparently this event took place in 1980. So we're not talking a couple of months between the event and this. We are talking about 3 decades. Mark, you got to try harder with your sources. 30 years for memory to change is almost guaranteed.
I would.
This is actually something studied very thoroughly. If you're familiar, for example, with the work of Elizabeth Loftus, who's been researching false memories, implanted memories, things like that, how we actually change our memories over time, even in really emotionally traumatic events and things like that, that these are actually far more malleable than you think, and they tend to become more malleable the more you actually think about those old memories. Given 30-ish years, if I'm quickly scanning through this video and reading it right, that's plenty of time for important details to be lost and then the supernatural aspects to be highlighted, even if the doctor is completely honest. And I'm not trying to say that he's being dishonest. I'm saying the fact that we are talking about what he says years and years and years after the fact does not make it all that reliable. This is an anecdote. From a doctor, yes, but nonetheless an anecdote.
Yes, with NDEs, that's all you're going to have, because they are.
But here's the thing: you could actually do better than that, and there have been attempted studies of doing just that. It's just that they fail to actually show the results that are wanted. For example, here's something that could be done, has been attempted, but for whatever reason, just never actually getting the results published. Go to a hospital, and at the places where you would have patients undergoing cardiac arrest or things where they're going to be losing consciousness, in the ceiling, put a single playing card and change the playing card every day or every time there's a new patient coming in. So that way, no one knows what the card is. And if you were just to randomly guess, there'd only be a 1 in 52 chance. If the person is undergoing an NDE and they are rising out of their body, rising through the roof, they should then be able to see that playing card, see what that playing card is, and report it. And if they can actually report that back better than what you would expect from chance, that would actually be objective evidence for NDEs. That would show out-of-body experience. And guess what? That has never actually worked.
There's one rather famous experiment in which the woman who's had an NDE went through the ceiling and returned to her body. And they said, "Oh, we don't believe it." She said, "Well, look on the top of your ceiling fan. This is on the top of it. There's a red sticker, and here's what it said on it." And she was correct. And
guess what? These, again, are anecdotes told years and years and years later. I'm talking about a carefully controlled, randomized study to actually account for all of those issues. And those studies fail to actually report back the success of NDEs. That's an objective test, and NDEs have failed to been able to produce such experimental results. Instead, you get nothing but anecdotes told it decades later, sometimes second or third hand.
Well, that's all you can get. Well, I mean, what are you going to do to get it to have a
Then your argument and your evidence is crap. And I'm sorry, Mark, that's what you're stuck with. You're stuck with crap evidence because all the attempts to get good evidence fail. That's what you expect from hypotheses that are probably not true.
Well, how can you get a repeat? You're going to say, "Well, let me almost kill you again and see what happens."
What? Mark, what did I just say is an objective way of testing it? I just gave you a method, and it's something that has been attempted. It's just that the researchers who have done that have never published results that are actually indicative of NDEs using the playing card method I just mentioned. I'm not making up this strategy either. This is something other people have set up and tried to do, but they, for whatever reason, have failed to actually show that working. And that's an objective way of doing it. Why is it that the objective ways fail to show the truth of NDEs, and all we get are the crappy things?
Well, I would say that the sticker on the ceiling fan is proof.
But we don't have that. We have anecdotes of that told years later, just like you did with this case of this other doctor with the German name Offenheide. When I checked, it looks like he's an American. He just has a German name. But nonetheless, it looks like what happened to him, or what he reports happened on the order of 30 years in the past. This is not a good, well-recorded instance with like contemporaneous note-taking and things like that. This is one guy's anecdote decades later. This is not how you try to prove the supernatural when there are other much better ways like the ones I had mentioned. The fact that those methods have failed to actually come to fruition should tell you that what is going on here is probably something other than the supernatural, because I can give you plausible naturalistic explanations for these things, especially misremembering things. And when the objective methods don't turn out things are true, that's exactly what you expect if what you're looking for isn't actually there.
Well, these events are so extraordinary. It would stick in the mind. Somebody reading my mind, I would remember that.
Not.
Doing me half a building away, I would remember that. These are not, gray areas.
Are extraordinary. No, the evidence is not. The timing of the reports is not extraordinary. It is decades after where we know memory will fail us. And we know this because this is actually something very carefully studied over decades by many, many researchers, knowing that indeed human memory is quite fallible. It's one of the reasons we probably believe these sorts of crazy things, because our memory is so easily influenced over time.
Well, all I can do is disagree. These events are so
well, actually, no, there's
singular
something else you could do, Mark.
not only that I could never forget.
Mark, here's the thing, though. What you could do is look into the research I mentioned about how memory changes over time, how it's actually more fallible. Maybe you can go in there and find some sort of flaw with that would actually show that these sorts of reports aren't going to be influenced in that sort of way. That's something you actually could do that could actually be scientific.
Okay, well, let me tell you just about the reputation for near-death experience memories. They're so vivid.
I actually just showed you, Mark. I just showed you're actually pretty shit at doing that. You gave me a report 30 years after the event, and you did not know that until I looked it up for you. So you can't actually tell me about the reputation because you failed to do your due diligence. So no, you can't actually justify the reputation because I figured out that your reputable source is actually not all that good. And you didn't know that because you didn't check.
Mark,
then I guess I'm on the wrong show.
Well, I mean, yeah,
you're on the right show, but the show is where we try to argue about these sorts of things. And one of the things we try to do is say, hey, we need to scrutinize this. We need to actually interrogate this. We need to be objective and scientific as much as possible. And if we find out, hey, our evidence or reasons aren't good, we go back to the drawing board rather than complain about the drawing board itself.
Yeah,
well,
Mark, Mark, hold on, Mark. You came onto a show where you have two people with advanced science degrees, and you expect to come on here with some kind of bullshit like, oh, well, I just believe these wild ass claims, like, oh, these are so these experiences are so impactful. There's no way that you can get those experiences wrong. Mark, I'd love to test this real quick. Last night, I was given a vision and an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience, if you will, from Willy Wonka. And he told me that I am to inherit his magical chocolate factory. Do you believe me?
No.
I mean, this happened last night, right? This is an experience.
No corroboration.
Where's your corroboration?
Well, the doctor and the patient.
Oh, I've got my wife, and I got my wife, and I can get you. I can get you my friend that I immediately told it to in the middle of the night at 3:14 in the morning. Like, you don't remember that kind of shit, Mark, unless it actually happened. 3:14 a.m. in the morning, I woke up from my Willy Wonka dream where I'm going to get a chocolate factory. I called my best friend and I told my wife. They're both corroborating that I had this out-of-body near-death experience. Why don't you believe that I am now the proprietor of a magic chocolate factory?
Well, I wouldn't believe it. It isn't corroborated by two parties. Okay.
Wait,
Mark,
I
just said it was.
In fact, Mark, also your claim is not corroborated by two parties. You pointed us to a video and only one party was there. So when you say there are two parties corroborating, all you're doing is taking what that person says about what the other party says. That's not two independent witnesses. That's one person also basically treating the other witness as a ventriloquist dummy. That's a little bit nefarious to say that, but nonetheless, we don't have that witness's testimony. All we have is one person and their recollection 29 years later. Wait, did I say 29? Actually, no, I keep saying the wrong year this whole time. I apologize. I've been doing the math wrong. The event was in 1980. The report is from 2019. That's 39 years. I apologize. It's worse than I thought.
Do I need to wait 39 years before I tell you about my vision?
Pardon?
Do I need to wait 39 years before I can tell you my vision? Because, I mean, that would be actually awesome. I'll be 69 at the time, and that's just a nice age.
Well, I think I'm wasting my time here and yours.
I mean,
So,
do you understand how we Mark, do you understand how ridiculous your claims seem in light of my Willy Wonka dream? Like, you could literally be telling me that Willy Wonka came to you or came to your friend or whoever in the fuck you saw on YouTube and said that they were going to get a magical mansion in the sky that produces magical candies. You understand that nothing that you have said has actually proven that any of the NDEs that you're talking about actually comport with reality. It's just as real as my magical candy factory.
Well, if I got his patient on record too, then you would just say, "Oh, that was a long time ago." And you would find another way to discount it.
Well, here's the thing, Mark. If we actually had contemporaneous evidence, that would actually be better than what you've provided so far. And if you had better evidence, then we would have to investigate more carefully about what's going on here. But you don't have better evidence. You have the worst evidence you could possibly find. One person remembering something from effectively a lifetime ago. That is the worst, the lowest, the crappiest evidence you could come up with. And again, Mark, look into the research about the fallibility of human memory. In fact, those really emotional events are not actually remembered better than less emotional events. They are strongly correlated to strong emotional feelings, but they are not actually remembered better in details. This is actually where the research on memory is pointing. Now, you could go research that, find flaws in that, or find flaws in my understanding of it, come back and show here are the limitations on that and show why it doesn't undo what I've been saying. That's one option. That'd be the scientific approach. The other one is what you do and bitch and moan that we're not accepting a crappy anecdote 39 years later.
Okay. But I know that whatever I brought back, it would not suffice. So
if you brought back better evidence, it'd be better evidence. If all you have is the crappiest evidence, then I'm sorry, that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Well, I've evidence that goes back to Plato, but that's too long for you.
What?
I don't see what Plato has to do with this, and I've read Plato, and I don't know
time
the
of Plato.
That's too long.
Evidence of people finding people and using NDEs, contacting people in the afterlife, and
wait. Are you talking about the myth of at the end of Plato's Republic, chapter 10, or book 10, I should say?
No.
Because that's what it sounds like what you were going for, because that has an NDE of sorts. Do I know Plato better than you, Mark? It sounds like I know Plato better than you, so don't quote Plato at me when you don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, thanks for not insulting me, okay?
Mark, maybe you did call the wrong show. I don't know.
Let's just sign off here. Good night, guys.
All right. Bye, Mark.
Call him when you got better evidence, please.
I mean, like, did he seriously call in and expect to just give some shitty anecdotal evidence and be like, yeah, the afterlife exists? Like, I feel like that's exactly what he expected. Like, does that normally work, like, on some people?
It works on those who want to be convinced.
Yeah.
And I'm really confused where he was going with Plato, because yes, there is an NDE in the writings of Plato, and I cited it exactly. And because I recently was rereading Plato's Republic for other research stuff, so this was somewhat in my head. And yeah, the myth of basically this other story of this other guy who went down into the afterlife and now is reporting back all the stuff he saw. Basically, you could imagine a early version of Dante's Inferno, basically. That sounds like what Mark was going at, but since I actually know what Plato was talking about and Mark didn't, it was really hard to tell what he was trying to get at. So,
yeah.
Like I say, he could come back in and actually study the science on memory, and maybe he could teach me a thing or two, because I certainly don't know it as well as the actual experts. But if Mark's just going to assert, nah, he's not going to convince anyone.
Yeah, I so wanted to yell out, the schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
If I can also give an anecdote for myself, I have had dreams of Willy Wonka when I was a kid. I specifically remember this little anecdote for myself. Now, which also means you need to take it with a grain of salt because of everything I said about memory. But the memory I have was little Aaron, maybe 5 or 6 year old, fell through the ice on the river that my house was by. Fortunately, my father was there, pulled me out of the water, pretty much quickly. It was never more than like waist deep, so I was never in like grave danger, but still, little kid falling through the ice. That's the scariest feeling in the world. And that night, I went to bed and I had a dream where the roles were reversed. It wasn't me stuck in the ice. It was Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka stuck in the exact same ice hole, the exact same situation. And if you want proof of that, I was there in my dream and so was my dad in that dream. Therefore, that's 2 witnesses to Willy Wonka stuck in the river behind my house. There you go. Proof of Willy Wonka and that Gene Wilder is haunting my dreams.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow, executive producer of The Line, and the rumors are true. Forrest Valkai is, in fact, a hostage in my basement. If you would like to contribute to his freedom one day, you can do so by supporting us over on Patreon or becoming a channel member. There are specific tiers for specific shows or the channel at large. You can also send us super thanks. Those are great. You can like, comment, and subscribe. Also, fudge the algorithm. Go to one of these things. The algorithm doesn't matter. It thinks it knows you better than we do. Better than you do? I know you better. Hank. There's a bunch of people named Hank. I just freaked way out. Okay, go to one of these.